association of Mozart with the image of an extremely rare, transcendently effortless form of musical genius has become so ingrained that we often overlook areas of his output marked by uneven quality. It's easy to conflate our estimation of Mozart as perhaps the greatest composer of the classic period with the importance we ascribe to the symphony as a genre, and jump to the conclusion that his symphonies are consistently noteworthy. In fact, out of the 41 works conventionally identified as Mozart symphonies, musicologists have found evidence of as many as 68, it's fair to say that only 9, numbers 25, 29, 31, 35, 36, and numbers 38 through 41, are performed with any frequency. To a great extent, this inconsistency is a reflection of historical, professional, and personal circumstances. Until the 1780s, symphonies were primarily occasional pieces, written to enhance the atmosphere of events such as coronations, holiday festivals, theater productions, and religious celebrations. Although these works exhibited elements of different national and regional musical styles, their common mode of expression was prevailingly festive, optimistic, charming, and easy to grasp. Their ancillary status can be seen in contemporary music reviews, which focus almost entirely on the given program's other works. In one case, a Parisian paper simply announced that, as a policy, we will not make mention of the symphonies with which all concerts begin, unless some special circumstances are involved. Thus, during the time Mozart lived in his hometown of Salzburg, a period that spanned the first 25 years of his 35-year life, the symphony was a relatively unimportant genre, and composers poured their loftiest musical aspirations into sacred music, opera, concerti, chamber, and solo music. 34 of Mozart's 41 symphonies, more than 80%, were written during his Salzburg years, and with a few exceptions, such as the 25th, 29th, and 31st symphonies, they reflected both the musical conventions of the time and the conservatism of his father and mentor Leopold, a violinist, composer, and teacher in the employ of the Archbishop of Salzburg. Although Haydn was creating symphonies of unusual structural integrity, ingenuity, and expressive range, he did so in the forest-bound isolation of the Esterházy estate, where he served as Kapellmeister to the court of that Hungarian noble family. The evolution of Mozart's symphonic style during the closing decade of his life was prompted by two distinct events. The first was his move to Vienna in the spring of 1781. No longer under his father's thumb, Mozart embraced the life of a freelance musician with abandon, producing a flurry of works that demonstrated a new level of harmonic and formal sophistication, melodic inventiveness, and emotional depth. He initially focused on composing piano concerti and chamber music, the genres most likely to generate ticket revenues and noble patronage. Later in the decade, this entrepreneurial spirit manifested itself in the composition of 4 operas: The Impresario, The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, and Così fan tutte. The second decisive event was more mundane. In 1779, Haydn, having already written 70 symphonies, renegotiated his contract with the Esterházys. Up to that point, his music was the work product of a royal employee and was thus court property. The new agreement gave him ownership of his music, as well as the freedom to accept outside commissions and sell his music to publishers. The idea of symphonies as musically independent entities that could significantly increase a composer's income was relatively new, and Haydn, who began a strong friendship with Mozart in the mid-1780s, exploited the revitalized genre's artistic and financial potential with aplomb for the rest of his life. Thus, as the decade progressed, the symphony was evolving into a form that was a more appropriate vessel for Mozart's extraordinarily fertile musical gifts. This is the context within which he produced the works that would most powerfully influence the symphonists who followed him. Although he didn't know that his 41st symphony, written more than 3 years before his death in 1791, would be his valedictory essay in the genre, it can serve as a summation of the process that brought him to his full artistic maturity. This symphony, whose nickname Jupiter was assigned posthumously, is a remarkable compendium of Mozartian gestures and sensibilities, from the pomp and ceremony of the opening bars, through the first movement's profusion of melodic ideas, the operatic pathos of the slow movement, and the regal charm of the minuet. These elements exist within a rich emotional texture that's informed by Mozart's frequent use of dark harmonies, harsh dissonances, and turbulent rhythmic figurations. The work closes with a celebrated fugal finale, in which 5 different melodic ideas are developed and then combined in seemingly miraculous fashion in the coda, the whole creating an atmosphere that is at once sacred, joyous, and playful. While the symphony is framed by Mozart's characteristic classical poise, the exquisite depth and emotional scope of this work, and indeed all 3 of his final symphonies, led the Romantics to claim this music as a profound demonstration of their belief in the supreme power of abstract instrumental music, a sentiment articulated by Brahms. I can understand that Beethoven's First Symphony impressed people greatly, but the last 3 symphonies by Mozart are much more important.